Hi, I'm Malik Bilal in for Femi OK, and you're in the stream. Today, promising to lift Greeks out of financial turmoil, the anti-austerity Syriza party has emerged as a new political force in Greece. So how will they shape the country's future? Our digital producer, Omar Badar, is here looking out for all of your live feedback. Now, Omar, now that the Greeks have had time to let the election results settle in, how are they reacting online?
You know, the excitement has not completely died off. There's still plenty of excitement out there, but of course not everybody agrees. I'll give you one view. It's that of Samuel Joseph, who's cautiously optimistic, saying that he sees the victory so far as a step in the right direction. For those of you at home who want to know what you think about the direction that Greece is moving in, tweet us using the hashtag AGStream, and we'll get to those tweets during the show.
Hi, my name is Sonetta Kahane. I'm the chairwoman of the Amadeo Anthony Foundation, who is against racism, and I'm in the stream.
History was made in Greece last week when Syriza became the first far-left party to win a Greek national election, falling just short, 2 seats short of a majority in parliament. They're also the first anti-austerity party to take power in Europe. Their campaign centered around policies aimed at addressing the rise in poverty, which now affects more than 6 million Greeks and 40% of all children. They made a number of big promises, including a massive job creation program, writing off the bank debt of people who can't afford it, and renegotiating the terms of Greece's $269 billion bailout with the EU and the IMF. While many are hopeful Syriza can end years of financial turmoil, others are worried their policies will inevitably compromise their relations with the Eurozone. Well, to help us discuss this, we're joined by Jens Bastian, an economic analyst, Yanis Paliologos, a reporter with the Kathimerini newspaper, Athena Pita, an entrepreneur who founded Glossopolis, a startup that encourages tourists to come to Greece, and Olga Balaoura, a Syriza party member. Welcome everyone to the stream. Athena, I want to start with you. What have these past 5 years of austerity and budget cuts, what have they done to the average Greek person's life? What has life been like?
Actually, these last 5 years were quite hard for the for Greek people, and actually even harder for the young people. I can tell you that the unemployment rate is very high, and I can speak about the young people that they started their business career when crisis started. So it was a strong hit for us, and many of them, they tried to find solutions here in Greece. They couldn't find any job. Many others immigrated, and they went to other European countries in order to find a better future. And some of them, they came back, and they realized that, of course, we've been through hard years, but this problem is not just Greek, because by going to other European countries, you can really see persons coming from Italy, from Greece, from Spain, from Portugal. So we understood well that maybe this is a serious European phenomenon that we should take into consideration. The persons that they came back, they took knowledge from outside, and they actually understood well that the economies should not be domestic oriented. And they understood that we should try to reach global economies through the means we have, like the internet. So they are trying to find new solutions, like creating businesses. And this is very promising, because the last 5 years were hard, but we have had nice lessons about how we should react and how we should act in the future.
Well, Yanis, you heard Athena mention some of the promising new solutions. I want you to take a look at my computer here, and this is just to show what Greece is up against. These are some of the economic challenges facing the country. Unemployment is above 25%, and 50% of that is among the youth. More than 70% of Greeks been jobless for a year. A number of Greeks are at risk of poverty, doubled in 5 years, and the economy has shrunk by 25%. The statistics go on and on. Yanis, what has this meant for people? What is this unemployment in particular? What has that meant?
Well, it's been a major social disaster. I mean, as you mentioned, about 3/4 of the people who are currently unemployed are long-term unemployed, and there's only a tiny percentage of those, less than 2%, get any sort of income support from the government. The welfare state was patchy even before the crisis, but there was enough support from informal networks centered around the family so that no one was really left indigent. During the crisis, both the official welfare state and the informal networks have broken down because of the recession and the loss of income. And that has meant that there's a huge number of people now who go without basic medical insurance, who find it difficult to feed their families. And this has been a great disaster. It is a complicated question exactly who's to blame for this disaster, and it's a question we're still debating in Greece.
So we have people actually online who are also describing how difficult things have been in Greece. We have Vasileios here who says standard of living has shrunk over the past few years. Middle class and wage workers, both public and private, have lost 30 to 40% of their income, and unemployment is between 25 and 30%. And we have Freedom for Okalan here who tweeted in saying, I've been witnessing misery all around me, people searching in the garbage for food so often at night. Jens, is it quite that bad in your direct experience in the country, and do you think that that's about to change?
It remains to be seen if it can be changed, but the situation is indeed very challenging. It's been painful, and apart from the crisis that is reflected in the numbers that you have just highlighted, there is another crisis that is taking place in this country, and this is more a silent crisis that is happening behind closed doors and which often does not have a name. It is a crisis of citizens living in Greece who cannot afford the mortgage anymore, who cannot pay the school bill for their children, who have difficulties to have basic access, as Yanis just had said a few moments ago, with regard to, for example, health services. This silent crisis is often not reflected in the kind of macroeconomic numbers that you have rightly highlighted, but many people are struggling, but they have yet to find the voice to do that. They are trying to express it, for example, at the ballot box.
And you said it remains to be seen if it can be changed. So I actually, Olga, I want to bring you in here, but I want to first play a little clip of some people who look like they think this will be changed. This is the night that the election results were announced. And this is a clip from our sister channel, station AJ+. This is from journalist Matthew Castle. I want you all to have a look at this and really just feel the excitement in the room.
Και πώς θα ξενυχτήσουμε βεβαίως και στη διάρκεια της σημερινής βραδιάς. Το exit poll λοιπόν. Και εύχομαι.
So you hear the crowd really break out there. Olga, the camera pans to you at that moment and you look very excited. What excites you most about Syriza?
First of all, I have to say some things before. As the rest of the panel mentioned, and you saw before some indices, unemployment now is at a staggering of 27%. Especially for the youth, as you mentioned, is more than 60%. More than 6 million people live below the poverty line. Thousands of households do not have electricity. But behind these indices, there is a humanitarian drama, a crisis going on in Greece, as well as an ongoing crisis going on in Europe. Can you imagine, Malika, a country within EU in which its population do not have the essentials to live? Can you imagine this picture in the 21st century? Because we can see these indices, but we cannot really understand what this means in the life, in the real life. We see under the fear, the people who work, we live under a constant fear of layoffs, distraction over the working affairs.
And Olga, I mean, those fears that you're relaying to us are the same ones that Jens also brought up and our other guests have brought up. They feel palpable. I can understand how you're feeling, which leads me to my question. And do you think that Syriza will change that? Is that the excitement that you felt in that clip where we saw people were so happy? Do you think that will change?
I think that we have the program. We have built years ago a program for the social and productive reconstruction of this country. We work for that. We think that the austerity measures that imposed so far cut basic social safety nets that not only produced a widespread deprivation, but also destroyed any chance for any economic growth, is what Athena said before.
So you think Syriza will bring back that chance for economic growth?
There is not any chance of a young person to be productive, to be part of a society which belongs to the European context. This is crucial, and this appeared in Greece after the Second World War.
So we have somebody online here who disagrees, who doesn't see a big promise coming with Syriza. Abel tweeted in saying, I think emotion has a lot to do with their victory. He gives a strange analogy. He says, fat guys don't like to exercise to lose weight. It's the same for Greece. Goes on to say and says, of course, Syriza was right there to tell Greeks exactly what they wanted to hear, an end to austerity. Jens, what would you say to people who basically say that this was more of Greeks not wanting to face the reality of the situation they're in and just voting for a party that gave them a slogan that they could get behind and not so much real solutions?
No, I don't think that that's a correct description of the motivation of people across the Greek population who voted for Syriza. Initially, you said Syriza is a left radical party. The outcome of these elections actually shows that this party is now a mainstream party of Greek politics. They have even received quite a lot of voters from conservative parts of society. There was an air of change that people wanted to express. They wanted to also regain what many called dignity, sovereignty of their own affairs. And these motivations are important to bear in mind. And I think they entrusted a party where they said they are not linked to the past, they are not linked to the political oligarchs and elites of Greece. They deserve a chance in light of the record of the other parties in the course of the past 30 years.
Yanis?
If I could jump in here.
I'm sorry.
Well, Yanis first, and then Olga, you'll go next. Yanis, go ahead.
Okay, just a comment on what Jens is saying. He's right, of course, to say that the Syriza attracted support from all over the political spectrum, including from conservatives who were very disappointed at especially the tax policies of the outgoing conservative government. But that does not mean that a lot of its program is not radical left. Certain key ministries are in the hands of people who view only the state as the way to achieve prosperity, and that, I think, is the view that got us into trouble and is not the way to get us out of trouble. And also just a quick comment on something that Olga said earlier about the 6 million people below the poverty line. That's actually a bit of an exaggeration. I think
I don't think so. It's according to the Eurostat indices.
I think you're mentioning the people who are at risk of poverty and not the people who are below the poverty line, who are about
below
24.
The poverty line, as EU and Eurostat reminds each time. Has put the line.
Yanis, let's finish your point and we'll go to Olga.
Sure. Yeah, no, that was the end of my point.
Olga, you wanted to respond?
Sure. I think in Syriza, I know it very well because I belong to the Syriza party, and I was one of the initiators of it, belonging to the youth of Syriza at that moment. Of course, we have political roots. Of course, we belong to the radical left. We have an engagement of a lot of years with civil movements, of student movements, of young protests, of the civil rights, the whatever opposed austerity, especially the last years in Greece. We are not something generally, in the generic sense, new. We have roots, we have program. Of course, what we propose now to our, of course, to the EU or to for the negotiation part, it's not something. You're right. Who mentioned that? He was right. It's just Keynesianic. It refers to Keynes. It's just a rational economic negotiation in order to get out of the humanitarian crisis. But the next step of that, of course, will be more radical. After we are able to.
I'm going to interrupt you there because you said the next step will be more radical, and I think that is what people are concerned with. So I pulled up on my screen here some of Syriza's promises here, and I hear you, Yannis. So I'll go to you after this, but I want to show some of the campaign promises. This is job creation program, writing off bank debt for the poor, renegotiating the terms of the bailout, taxing the rich, and eration of free electricity and heating. These are all fantastic campaign promises. They are exciting several people, several thousands, of course. Yannis, can they be paid for? Where will the money come from?
Well, that's the the billion-dollar question. The new government has said it doesn't actually want the latest tranche of the bailout, which is more than 7 billion. It has to pay back loans of about 20 billion this year. And of course, there's no possibility of it accessing the markets for it. The yields on the Greek bonds are absolutely forbidding. So that's a very serious and very difficult question, and I think it is complicated by the fact that Syriza could get a lot of support in Europe for some form of debt relief, for some loosening of the fiscal targets of the current program. But it will get no support for the more radical, as Olga mentioned, steps, which include canceling privatization, renationalizing industries, rehiring thousands of people to the public service. That has failed before in Greece, and it's not the way forward for Greece, and it's not what its creditors are going to allow.
So we have people who are actually commenting about these promises online as well. Osman tweeted in saying, yes, I'm actually coming right to you, Athena, in just a second. Osman says, I really hope that the leader of Syriza would be able to follow through on the promises, but I think they're going to cave to the pressure under the EU. Athena, what is your sense of the extent to which Syriza is actually going to be able to deliver on all these promises?
Actually, I would like to say something else. We've been talking about job creations, but actually, the job creations should not come just from the public sector. They should come from the private sector as well. So I really believe that there should be more businesses, local businesses, and especially the young entrepreneurs should be reinforced in order to achieve this goal, in order to build sustainable businesses and create jobs for other persons as well. Because this is what we are doing here in Greece. What we do, actually, there was a comment before, there was a comment that Greeks, they just voted for someone who just said the right things. But I think there's a huge portion of, a huge percentage of the Greek people that they take life in their hands and they try to find their own solutions. So I think that the solution is people try to create businesses, they try to have access to finance, they try to create jobs, and actually I think that this is the solution. This is a part of the solution in the current situation, actually.
Jens, go ahead.
I think what Athena says is very important because it highlights another aspect of this crisis, and that is it has actually contributed to people taking matters in their own hands. The startup scene in Greece, in particular with young people in very different sectors, be it health services, logistics, be it also in technology, is a very vibrant new sector where people say, I cannot wait until the state or until the government makes a change. I want to take these matters in my own hands. What I need, nevertheless, I need affordable financing. I need business monitoring services which help me in my startup. How do I create an internet platform? How can I, for example, also learn the rules of accounting? This is where these business services have to support that kind of vibrant initiative that this crisis has also bred in Greece. Right. And Athena is a very good live example for this kind of activity and innovation.
And
if I may jump in.
Could I please say something?
Athena? Sure. Athena, and then Yannis.
Yes, I would like to add that, for example, for us, the startup scene, our base is not very important. Maybe it's important in terms of taxation, in terms of bureaucracy, but I cannot say that we are worse than other countries. I want to give a message here. People think that maybe the situation, of course the situation is hard, but when we are talking about global economies, our target is the whole world. Our base is not very important. But if you see our base, here the situation is better. It's better to build a business here in Greece because we have cheaper rents, the salary, the wages are lower, yes, let's be honest about that, and we have all the means in order to do that. So I think it's very promising what's going on here.
Right. Yanis?
I just want to agree with both Athena and Jens that the startup scene is a promising development. I wrote about it in my book as well, as one of the few silver linings that we've seen in the crisis. Of course, it's very, very small at this point and unable to be the locomotive that will bring Greece out of the crisis. But what I wanted to ask you, Athena, actually is, do you feel that to the extent that the government is involved in creating a business environment, even for a business that's outward looking and looks to sell to the whole world, do you think this new government will be understanding of your needs and will create the right environment for you?
Actually, this government is a weak government. I mean, it's a government of a week, of 7 days. That means I cannot really judge for the time being. I hope that they're going to have fast reflections. They are going to understand our needs and they are going to help us because really I think startup scene is a part of the solution. Because what we do is we bring money from outside, inside, and we'll help local economies. And this should not be underestimated.
So there's the question that I think would be remiss if the show went on without actually us discussing, which is the relationship between the EU and Greece at this point. We have Dodo here who tweeted in saying the party should face the lecherous Germany and the blood-sucking creditors head on. However, Abel here has a very different view. He says that you should not bite the hand that feeds you. Jens, what is your view on how the EU is dealing with Greece? Is it actually exploiting Greece?
Olga, we hear you. Let's get this answer from Jens and we'll go to you.
Because I haven't spoken before, that's why.
Jens?
About the...
I give the word to Olga first and then I'll come back.
It's very polite.
Right.
Olga, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, what I wanted to say, and it's related actually with what Yannis Paleologos mentioned before. It's about the negotiation part. We are optimists. What we see about what polls shows around more than 70% of the Greek society stand by our side. First of all, there was a massive protest initiated by Podemos in Madrid that thousands of people actually gave their support and their solidarity to the new Greek government, left Greek government. We saw what Mr. Obama said, President Obama said about the Greek government and how also optimistic he was as well, and congrats Mr. Tsipras, etc. We saw yesterday Mr. Osborne, after the meeting he had with Mr. Varoufakis, saying that the Brexit scenario would be the greatest risk to the global economy.
He also told Mr. Varoufakis to act responsibly, though.
Of course. Why?
And Varoufakis, of course, being the finance minister
Mr.
of Greece.
Tsipras was acting responsibly before. Excuse me. Secondly, Mr. Sapin said that the French government is more than willing to support Greece.
So, Olga, we hear the international support from around the world. We are running out of time, so if you could sum up your point in about a sentence for us.
Our agenda is a rational agenda. What we say is that instead of being enslaved by the debt, the Greek debt will be sustainable and open and should open the prospect of a real growth.
Okay, Olga, I'm going to pause you there. You mentioned that it is a rational agenda, and I know there are other guests who are going to want to respond to that, and we'll do that in the post-show. We'll also get an answer from Jens from that tweet question from Omar asking about the EU and whether it's exploiting or helping Greece. That's next in the post-show at stream.aljazeera.com, so stay with us for that. Now, on the next show, Bemi will be back to look at the mixed messages coming out of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Who's winning the information war? But until then, we'll see you online. More Greek next. Welcome back. This is the Stream's online post show. We've been talking about the emergence of the anti-austerity Syriza party as a new political force in Greece. So we'll get back to that conversation. There was a tweet question that wasn't quite answered before we headed into the post show. So I'm going to give it back to Omar so he can throw it out for an answer.
Jens, I wanted to throw this question to you again. We have people in our online community who disagree basically on how EU is treating Greece, whether it's actually exploiting it or whether it's trying to help it. What is your view on this?
My view is that the EU, the European Commission, is challenged by the presence of this government. And the government is also right to challenge the Commission and to revisit some of its policy priorities. Nevertheless, I would emphasize, it's not so much about looking back, it's about looking forward. And that means this government, for example, the finance minister and the prime minister, they're traveling all over the place in Europe to meet prime ministers, finance ministers in Rome, in Paris, in Brussels, in Berlin. That tells you something also about they want to establish stakeholders. They want to try and do coalition building in order to advance, in order to clarify their policy agenda. That means Greece is part of this EU process of trying to reshape and redefine this agenda, and Syriza is trying to do that with travel diplomacy. That is most welcome.
You mentioned coalition building and moving forward, but it's under the cloud of $366 billion in debt. If you take a look at my screen here, 60% of that debt is owed to the Eurozone, 10% to the IMF, and 30% to Greek banks and other bonds and loans. So, Yanis, should Greece have to pay that money back?
Well, I think a deal on debt relief would be very welcome for Greece, especially, which is not that easy to do, if it meant that debt servicing the next few years would be reduced, and it would mean that the government could spend more, could cut some taxes, and so on. That's not going to happen through a straight haircut. That's been made clear by the European powers. And in fact, even the French minister that Olga mentioned was very clear that there would be no nominal debt haircut. But it can be done through in indirect ways like extending maturities and cutting interest rates. The question is what Syriza is willing to give up in order to get that. France and Italy, two huge countries who have the size and the heft to blackmail Europe, were able to get minor fiscal adjustments to their program, to their budgetary targets, by promising to do all the structural reforms that were available. So why do we think that Greece can get away with more fiscal leeway, debt relief, and also not doing structural reforms? I don't think that's going to happen.
So, interestingly enough,
can I say something
Olga,
to Yanis?
Sure, go ahead.
About what Yanis said, about what is it has to go back to the to France or Germany, etc. What have been done in the history before is that Germany, after the Second World War, the other European states that they were destroyed as well, proceeding a haircut of her debt in order Germany to have this kind of, let's say, process to grow. This is what we ask now. We don't ask for mercy. I don't know in which means this will happen. Either will be a haircut or how Mr. Varoufakis called it, a smart debt engineering strategy with a menu of debt swaps. But either way, it has to be a solution, a sustainable solution, so that the Greek economy have to grow again. We cannot get into the point of reforms, of constant cuts, of a process of economy that is not running.
No, but reforms are not cuts.
For nobody.
When I say reforms, I don't mean cuts.
I'm talking of the previous. Yes, I know what you mean. Because reforms they have been using before also by Samaras government. That's why I'm referring to the expression. So what we say is we want to be reformed. We want to reform the state as well as the economy. The thing is that we want to follow the institution. The institution have been abolished years ago. We want to make regulations in favor of the public interest. We want a tax-fair policy scaled over the capacity of the people to pay, and of course to tax for the first time, the wealth in Greece.
So Olga, you've outlined what Syriza wants and what they want to do for the future. I do want to get our community in because they're watching this conversation and they have their own questions.
So interestingly enough,
Olga, just one moment.
Just one moment. So we have people online who are interestingly not just suggesting that there should be a change between the relationship between Greece and Europe, but that there actually should be a separation, pretty much. We have Matt Brown here who tweeted in saying that the problem with Syriza is that they want to stay Europeans. I simply don't understand it. Being a sovereign country, don't you want your own currency and destiny? And then we have Rafael here who says things will move in a different direction if they look beyond the EU. BRICS, by the way, that's the association of the economies of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, saying that this is the way to go. That should be the association that they're moving towards. Jens, can you envision Greece pulling away from the EU, that having any kind of positive implications for Greece?
No, that's an absolute non-starter. Greece is part of Europe, of the European Union, and this new government, pre-elections and also now after the formation of the new administration, has always made it crystal clear we also want to stay in the Eurozone. It's one of the reasons why they won the elections.
Yanis?
Yes, no, I completely agree. I'm convinced that the main people in the Syriza government are completely against a separation. They know how disastrous that would be, both financially and politically, for the country. It would take us back decades. And that's why I'm somewhat optimistic, despite the difficult negotiation, that they will find a way to strike a deal and allow both the economy to return to normality and there to be a recovery. My concern is how easy it will be for Mr. Tsipras to get that through his own party, actually, because there are quite a few hardliners within Syriza who won't be as willing to do the necessary compromises.
Right. Omar?
So we have actually a topic that has come up a couple of times that I think that is worth getting into, which is corruption. That's just been such a concern that has come up from so many different people in our community. We have Adam here who tweeted in saying that his concern is that this government would also suffer from corruption and greed and would become like those that came before it to power. And we have Neslihan who asks, will Syriza government prove to be honest and decent enough to collect taxes and create jobs for Greeks? Athena, I want to throw this to you. Do you think a party that is running on a platform about helping poor and middle class people is going to be more resistant for the possibility of falling to the problem of corruption?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Do you think that Syriza is going to be more resilient against the possibility of falling into corruption? Do you think that they're more immune to it than other parties?
I think that I cannot say that if they are going to be, but I say that I hope that they are going to be, because actually the message of these elections was that people were bored of the past situation and that they really needed a change. So I think the government should take this message and try to do their best in order to fight against corruption, because really corruption is a serious issue and we should really take it into consideration.
Well, Olga, I will give you the last word because I know you wanted to get in, and I hear you, Jens, but we are running out of time. So I'll give the last word to Olga. And you mentioned this a little bit earlier, so I'd like your brief thoughts on this, but whether or not you think this will be a turning point for Europe. Will the election and the results of Syriza winning this election, will that have a domino effect?
When at the beginning of the 90s, Mr. Fukuyama claimed that history is over and inaugurated an era of a complete hegemony of the ethics of neoliberalism and generally the neoliberal agenda. Now it's the first time, historically, after that moment, that a new left government is moving again, tries to build up a history in Europe and why not globally. We try to build productivity and innovation in order to have also Athena in this kind of process with us. We want to rebuild again democracy and produce this solidarity bonding throughout whole Europe, between the working people, the people who are suffering, the people who are trying,
right,
and to produce what you said before, a domino effect in Athens, in Spain, in Portugal, in France. Why not in England as well?
Why not in England? We will see. Thank you, Olga. That was Olga Belaura. We also had Yanis Paliogos, Jens Bastian, and Athena Pita on the show. Thanks so much. We'll wrap it up with ending thoughts from our community. Omar.
Sure. We have Incoming here who echoes this about the possibility of spreading across Europe. Says Syriza is lighting up a fire for many in Europe by showing that there are alternatives to the fiscal bad boys. And then we have Fernando here who says, I have absolutely no idea what comes next, but one can only hope that their new path will create a better future for the average Greek.
Fiscal bad boys. That is a new hashtag. Now, on the next show, we'll take a look at the mixed messages coming out of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Who's winning the information war? Until then, we'll see you online.